Hello everyone and welcome to the Week 2 edition of Instant Replay, where I give you my take on the most controversial plays of the weekend. I'm Simon Borg. We start at Toyota Park, where the Fire took the lead in the 11th minute, but it was a controversial goal until you watch the replay. Fire forward Nemanja Nikolic looks way offside on this play, except he's not receiving the ball on a pass from a Fire teammate. Turns out the ball is poked away by Real Salt Lake's Sunday Steven. You see on this replay here how referee Kevin Stott motions to his assistant Peter Balchunas to keep running with the play. He saw who got the touch that entire way. Let's fast forward to stoppage time, when we see Chicago's Brandon Vincent playing a little keep away with just seconds left, and he's double teamed. But one of those RSL players, Luke Mulholland, looks like he flings an elbow at Vincent, who keeps playing. But the foul actually goes against Vincent. Next up, Red Bull Arena for New York's 1-0 win over Colorado, but it was still scoreless in the 17th minute when Colorado had a strong case for a penalty, as New York's Damian Perenel looks to shove 6'7" Axel Højbjerg. No call from referee Robert Sibiga. Two penalties were called by referee Mark Geiger in the 2-2 draw between the Philadelphia Union and Toronto FC. The first one came in the 32nd minute as Toronto's Nick Hagglund pulls down Fabian Herbers. But when we slow it down, it looks like Hagglund may have let go before they get to the perimeter of the penalty area. So with the benefit of the replay, I'd call this one a free kick outside the box. The second penalty was in favor of Toronto just before halftime, when Derrick Jones is ruled to have brought down Toronto's Josie Altidore, and this one was controversial, with Union manager Jim Curtin stating that there was no contact. But when we look at the replay, you see Jones has his arm on Altidore's shoulder, preventing him from making the run. And it's one of those points of emphasis that the Professional Referee Organization outlined before the start of the season. My opinion, that was the right call by Geiger. Now, a couple of controversial fouls in this one, neither of which earned a card from the referee. First, in the 68th minute, goalkeeper Andre Blake needs treatment after a collision with Toronto's Tosaint Ricketts. I thought this was a bang-bang play, so I agree with Geiger calling the foul, but keeping his cards in his pocket. And then in the 44th minute, we look at this tackle that forced 2015 MVP Sebastian Jovinko out of the match. It looked to me like this was a careless challenge by Philly defender Oguchi Onyewu, but not a reckless one. Unfortunately for Jovinko, the challenge left him with a leg contusion. And then there was this foul committed by the Union's Fabinho, who was already sitting on a yellow, and he sends his studs into Ricketts in the 80th minute. Now, I would argue that the foul amounts to serious foul play, deserving of a red card, but no cards were forthcoming from Geiger on that one. Busy day for referee Jair Marufo in Montreal. There was a debate whether Mateo Mancosu was offside on his opening goal, but when we look at the freeze frame, although the angle is not ideal, I think assistant referee Brian Poschel got it right. It looks to me like Seattle's Gustav Svensson keeps him on. The score was still 1-0 Montreal at the half-hour mark, when you can make the argument that Laurent Simon, who was already on a yellow, deserved a second caution for this late, high kick delivered on Seattle's Harry Shipp, who was darting in on goal. I thought it should have been a second yellow, but referee Jair Marufo allows play to continue and doesn't come back to sanction Simon. And I thought the Montreal center back was also graced on the late penalty kick he caused with this foul in the box on Seattle's O'Neal Fisher. I think this was potentially a yellow for stopping a promising attack, but no card was issued there either. Not even to Simon's impact teammate Adrian Arregui, who puts his hand on the ref not once, but twice. Another player who I thought should have been sent off, Seattle center back Román Torres, who delivered this kick out at Ambrazo Yongo after the ball was already long gone in the 37th minute. It was likely retaliation for this shoulder charge by Oyongo on Torres, but that was still violent conduct by the Panamanian. Nothing called by Marufo, who by that point was already looking away. The match would finish 2-2 after this late Will Bruin equalizer, but the defending champion Sounders thought they had tied it up in minute 90. Handball was the call, and I think this is a great spot by Marufo, who has absolutely no doubt about it. From the replay, it looks to me like it goes off the chest of Jordan Morris, then rolls along his arm. That's a handball, and in my opinion, a great decision, and a gutsy one to make at that time of the game. Next up, Houston, where the Dynamo jumped out to an early lead on Crew SC, but the visitors thought they tied it in the 8th minute through Ola Kamara. But that goal was called back for offside, and that's a great flag by assistant Nick Uranga. Kamara would get a late stoppage time goal, but the freeze frame would have you believe that he may have been off there too by the slightest of margins. Assistant Adam Garner decides to keep his flag down on that end of the field. That late goal was only consolation for Crew SC, as Houston won this one rather handily. But I'd argue the Dynamo should have been playing with 10 men in minute 50 when Dynamo center back Adolfo Machado goes in with this stomp on Federico Higuain. Even if he was going in to make a play on the ball, studs up is not the way you do it. I call that serious foul play. No foul called by referee Chris Penso. There was a red card in this one. It was shown to Crew SC player Jonathan Mensah in the 86th minute. And there's no doubt about it for me. Yes, it was raining and Mensah lost his footing, but he also doesn't need to keep his legs straight and studs high on the follow-through. I thought that was a solid decision by Penso. To Children's Mercy Park, where we saw an interesting play in the 80th minute. Did Roland Lama deserve a red card for driving his shoulder and maybe even an elbow into Graham Zusi off the ball? The officials don't see it, but I sure would classify it as violent conduct. And I would argue there's a second Dallas player who should have seen red. With 4 minutes remaining, center mid Carlos Grueso goes in with his studs up on Latif Blessing, and I think that could have done some serious damage. Now, Grueso bends his knee on the follow-through, but I think he does it too late in the tackle. Perhaps it was enough of a mitigating factor for referee Soren Stoica, who shows him a yellow card. At Avaya Stadium, the turning point of the match was the sending off of Vancouver goalkeeper David Osted in the 23rd minute, and I thought this call was spot on by referee Drew Fisher. San Jose forward Chris Wondolowski beats Osted, and with the ball well past him, the keeper sticks his leg out and clips the Quakes captain. That's denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity according to the revised rules. The Earthquakes came back from 2-0 down to win this game 3-2, but in the process, they wanted a penalty in the 40th minute for an alleged handball by Vancouver's Jordan Harvey, except the referee Fisher doesn't buy it, and neither do I. That's ball to hand if anything, no penalty. To Yankee Stadium, where New York City FC whitewashed DC United 4-0, but DC thought they had a momentary equalizer in the 11th minute. Except this goal was called back for offside, and I think assistant referee Matt Nelson gets this right. The angle is not the best for us to judge, but it does look like Lloyd Sam is probably ahead of the last defender, Ethan White. Referee Alan Kelly had a big decision to make early in this one. New NYCFC designated player Maxi Morales looks to me like he sends an elbow into the face of Lloyd Sam, which I think should have seen red. But Kelly opts for the talking to as Morales claims his innocence. And we had another suspicious elbow in this one. This committed by DC forward Patrick Mullins on NYCFC's Maxime Chanot. From the replay, it looks to me like Mullins has his elbow at a high angle and definitely not in a natural position. I would have gone straight red here too, but Kelly gives him a warning. And Mullins comes off the field anyway because he subbed out right after that play. It was 4-0 in the 85th minute when DC's Lamar Nagel makes this challenge in their midfield on NYCFC's Yangel Herrera. In my opinion, Kelly, who's right there, lets him off easy with a yellow. Here's why. I felt Nagel came in studs up with his legs straight and over the ball. That play came just seconds after this DC penalty shout, but I think Ian Hark simply whiffs on the ball, and NYCFC defender Alexander Cayens is just getting up off the ground. He's not trying to make a play on the ball with his arm. To the snow in Minnesota and the coldest game in MLS history. And Atlanta were on the board after just 3 minutes, but was forward Josef Martinez offside on the pass from his teammate. It's the usual caveat here too. We don't have the best angle, but the impression I have from the footage is that he was even. It was already 3-0 when Minnesota United earned a penalty kick, and there was no doubt about this one. Atlanta's Jeff Larenowitz chops down Kevin Molino in the box, and Molino himself converts for Minnesota's only goal in a 6-1 loss. The Loons wanted another penalty just a few minutes later, but referee Ismael Elfaf says play on, and I agree. I don't see anything illegal here by Atlanta defender Leandro Gonzalez Pires on Minnesota's Johan Venegas. I think the defender does well to hold his ground. Those two were at it again in the box in the second half, but here I do think there's a foul committed on Venegas. Look at how Gonzalez Pires has both hands on Venegas, and he's actively holding him down, preventing him from jumping. But the referee, Elfaf, does not call it. Now, Gonzalez Pires did come away with a caution in this game for a foul on, you guessed it, Venegas. It came in the 33rd minute, and it was a tackle reminiscent of the Jermaine Jones incident from last week. Except in this case, it comes from the side instead of from behind, but still endangering the safety of his opponent. And we end at StubHub Center, where the Timbers got on the board early, but the Galaxy were hoping for a potential equalizing penalty in the 22nd minute. And when we check the replay, it looks to me like Portland's Diego Chara steps on Jack McBean's foot inside the penalty area, but referee Baldomero Toledo doesn't call a foul. A few minutes later, it was Roman Alessandrini who wanted a foul called, but Toledo rules that this shoulder-to-shoulder on the edge of the box was a fair challenge, and I agree. I don't think Timbers right back Alvis Powell does anything illegal here, and Alessandrini goes down a bit too easy. Next up, the yellow Van Damme sending off in the 34th minute after 2 yellow cards, which were both hotly debated. According to Toledo himself, who answered pool reporter questions after the match, he said this first yellow in the 31st minute was a result of dissent for Van Damme's remonstrations after Toledo called the foul. And acts of visual dissent are a point of emphasis for referees this year. Now, that doesn't negate what looks like simulation by Chara. But from Toledo's angle, behind Van Damme, that simulation probably would have been hard to see. As for the second yellow to Van Damme, which came only 3 minutes later for a challenge on David Guzman, Toledo said that Van Damme, quote, attempted to trip Guzman, which stopped the promising attack. Guzman avoided the contact and fell awkwardly, close quote. Now, that rationale makes sense, and it's accurate per the laws of the game, which say that a foul can be awarded if a player, quote, impedes the progress of an opponent without contact being made. And if that stops a promising attack, well, then it would deserve a yellow card. But while I agree that Van Damme attempted to trip Guzman, I don't think his attempt actually caused Guzman to avoid the contact and trip. I think Guzman did that on his own. So I would have stopped play and shown a yellow to Guzman for simulation. But here, too, I can see how the referee's position may have hurt him on this one. Oh, and we're not done. A couple of hard fouls to look at before we go. In the 24th minute, I thought Darlington Nagbe should have received the first red card of his career for serious foul play when he exposes his studs to challenge LA's Rafa Garcia for this ball. Toledo instead opts for a yellow for reckless play. And then in the 52nd minute, it looks like Garcia gets back at Nagbe, receiving a yellow himself for this tackle. But more so than being reckless, I think this tackle endangered the safety since Garcia goes over the ball and drives his studs into Nagbe's shin. And lastly, there's Fernando Adi stepping on Galaxy goalkeeper Clement Diop in the 70th minute with the ball long gone. I felt that Adi should have been able to easily avoid this. Now, Adi was actually called for the foul, but the referee did not deem that it warranted any cards. What did you think? Give us your feedback in the comments below and keep reaching out with the plays you want to see featured here using #InstantReplay on Twitter. Until next week, for our editor Rich Hernandez, I'm Simon Borg. See you next time!